Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Power Man Podcast. My name is Rory Paquette. I am, as always, your very grateful host. Thank you all for being here today for another episode. We have another great episode today and another fantastic guest for you. You guys are going to love this guy. Um, I would be remiss if I started this podcast any other way than to say thank you to all of you. From the last few episodes, we've had the outpouring of emotion, of reaction, of DMs. Folks, you guys are the best audience on the planet. Thank you so much. We had people who were a couple of episodes ago talking to Josh Bracco, and you guys were messaging him directly, talking about how great things were and what you could do and to help and everything else. So I can't thank you enough for what you've done for all of us here and for our guests. So thank you. Means a lot. We wouldn't be here approaching 200 episodes in 40 countries if you folks were not doing what you're doing. So please keep it up. We're at Power of Man Podcast on Instagram, and we love you all. Before we get rolling, and if you're a friend of the program, you know what we got to do. We got to pay the bills. All right, so here we go. I think I need to take a sip of my preferred beverage. Oh my goodness, man. I wouldn't be able to do this in the morning right now if it wasn't for that. And if you're a friend of the program, you know what we're drinking. That's right, it's Freedom Hill coffee. So deep, dark, rich, bold, and beautiful, just like my wife. This coffee is absolutely fantastic. They brew a mean coffee bean, and they do all the right things for all the right reasons, and they support veterans, which is why we support them on this show, because you guys know how important veterans are to us here at Power of Man. Folks, go to Instagram at Freedom Hill Coffee. Tell them Power Man sent you. You will not be disappointed. All right, now that we've done that, let's get to the real meat of this show. We have an awesome guy here today. He's going to talk to us about a lot of stuff. He's got a really cool story. Um, I've just met this guy, and I'm already proud of him. And I just love where he is in his life and what he's doing to try and help people. And I am really happy to bring that to you guys today. Please welcome to the show, Coach Austin Page. Coach, how you doing?
Roy, I appreciate it, bud. I'm doing great, man. Appreciate the time.
Awesome. Love having you on today. Now, you are a coach. So, as we get going, tell everybody who you are, what you do, and why you're here.
Yeah. I appreciate it again. And so I'm a coach. I'm an in-person online coach. I've been helping people for over the past 10 years, over a decade, showing them what I've done to help myself within my own life, creating a new identity, better habits, a new lifestyle that's aligned with that person that I want to be, the person I would admire, and helping others do the same, find their path and taking the steps forward, building an actionable path or process that gets them in the right direction. And I've been coaching in person here at my own private gym for over the past few years, and just recently dove into online coaching, helping others that aren't local, that reach out to me on social media and just need help, need some guidance, some structure, accountability.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Now, you said a whole bunch of, you unpacked a lot there because you threw out
Yeah,
some pretty key words. And I know that some of those have some meaning for you. Um, Building a new identity and trying to become the man that you want to be. That is
yep,
something that every one of our listeners is striving for right now. It's, these guys who are listening to our podcast, they're beat down. A lot of them. They have been struggling. They are, stuck in places they, didn't think they ever would be stuck in. They very often are feeling hopeless about where they are. And I know
yeah,
that you guys who are listening right now are nodding your heads going, sing it, brother. And so one of the things that we try and do here is bring stories of, guys who found themselves in that tough spot and somehow got out of it. Because if, they can do it, then these guys can do it too. And so leading by example is really huge here on this show. Um, you've overcome a lot to get to where you are.
yeah,
Give us an idea of your story, man.
yeah. So that flip of the switch that I could call the event that sort of got my mindset starting to change is back in 2010, so a while back actually. But I was in my early 20s, out of high school, out of college, and just was chasing nothing that was getting me nowhere fast. And typically living for the weekends, Thursday through Sunday, really didn't have a purpose, a passion, or a North Star to sort of follow. I was just trying to find things that were was losing happiness in the same place I was looking for. Looking for drinks, drugs, chasing chicks that weren't things that were that weren't fitting for me and the person that I truly wanted to be. And I didn't realize that I really didn't like myself or wasn't happy with myself during that time, because I was always getting this false sense of happiness, false sense of confidence throughout these weekends, throughout these parties, throughout these vices and things that I was leaning into that were actually pulling me backwards. They were more so anchors. And long story short, weekend after weekend, thinking I'm 10 foot tall and bulletproof like most younger guys do,
Right.
thought I was Superman. I decided to get in the car and drive home one night after a party, and don't remember getting in the car, and ran off the road about a mile away from the home. I didn't have anybody with me in the car. Nobody else was on the road, fortunately, but flipped my car a few times, landed in somebody's front yard, and they came, pulled me out, supposedly. I don't remember any of this, fortunately, but they called 911, sent to the local hospital. From there, they sort of transported me to more of a major hospital in the city of Richmond, and things had definitely gotten real, real quick. Woke up or came to sort of in and out throughout the first couple of days in that hospital, looking down and seeing a wide gaping hole in my stomach, which was a wound vac where my intestines had ruptured from that wreck,
Hmm.
and they were sucking infectious juices out of my stomach, out of my thoracic cavity. And because when your intestines rupture, all the food, guts, and contaminants that you had in your body, your belly, sort of spill out into you, and you start to get infected pretty quick. I
Wow.
broke both my legs
Yeah.
from the knees down, my left ankle, and it was just a mess. Almost like a Twilight Zone when I woke up. I was like, "There's no way this can be real." And day after day, I kept getting a little bit more to it mentally, and I was like, "Man, this is wild." And unsure about what my future would be and where I was going to be going. Would I be able to walk again? Would I be able to eat normally? What's life going to be? And from that 6 week stay in that hospital, they transferred me to a rehab center, and not just like a rehab center to where like for Alcoholics Anonymous or something like that. It was a rehab center, like a physical rehab center, to build my body back up. I was sent there to live for 2 months, and when I was sent there, I was bedbound. I wasn't able to get in a wheelchair. I wasn't able to really sit up. I'd lost a ton of weight, ton of strength, and lost a ton of mental, a lot of self talk too. Any of that was gone. Just didn't feel great. Obviously, nobody in that position would. So every day I'd just sit there in the bed, watch TV all day, until the physical therapist started to introduce themselves to me, and they were like, "Hey, we got to get ourselves out of this. You can't just sit here all day." And fortunately, not only were they there to give me that nudge and to give me that push, but also I realized that that life that I was living nearly cost my life, and something needed to change. I didn't know what needed to change, but the way I was living needed to change a little bit. So I was willing to accept the feedback from them and start pushing myself. And every day they'd come into my room with like rubber bands while I was in the bed doing some exercises and stuff, and slowly but surely building some strength back, where I was released to get into like a wheelchair. And that's where things started to ramp up. Every morning they would come into my room, say, "Austin, get your ass out of bed, hop into the wheelchair. I'll meet you in the gym." And this rehab center had a gym in it. And I'd roll down there. They'd lock my wheelchair in place, give me some Gatorade bottles. I'd start curling some Gatorade bottles, raising them over my head in my chair. They'd pull me up to a cable machine, do some curls, some other work, and parallel bars, doing parallel dips. And I didn't know, I wasn't into fitness before this at all. So, like, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know why I was really doing it. I just knew that I was trusting them, and also realizing that this is what I needed to do to get myself out of this situation. I'm the reason for my problems, but I'm also the solution to my problems.
Right.
And day after day, I realized that I started to feel pretty good, and feel good physically, but mentally. I was actually doing some habits, doing some things that were actually building me, building contentment, building confidence, building positive self talk, instead of the old Austin that was always chasing these false things, or these things that weren't ever giving back to me. They were just pulling me backwards. That old lifestyle was taking maybe 1 or 2 steps forward during the week and 3 to 4 steps backwards on the weekends, type of deal. So now with this new like sort of position that I put myself in, I was consistently taking steps forward, which really felt good. And I was like, man, okay, things are starting to click a little bit. Uh, Made it out of that rehab center about 2 months later, and my first job outside of this was getting a job at a local gym, because I realized I really liked to work out now. Or at least I was feeling pulled towards that. I felt how good mentally and physically I started to feel, building confidence, positive self talk, building that that person that I could like sort of look up to and like. And long story short, year or two there, started to meet some personal trainers there, started to pick up the ropes, and decided that I wanted to start coaching myself. Found my way into that. A few years into that, working for another gym, realized I could do this on my own and actually be able to dive deeper into my clients. And uh, when I first got into personal training with that first original gym, it was more of like I not for lack of better terms, there's like the churn and burn of clients. They just wanted to get as many people into you as quickly as possible, and you didn't really have much time with them. So people would get results over 6, 8 weeks, but they would go back to their same old ways, same old habits, like I was doing back in my younger days, you know. And I realized that it wasn't a physical thing that they needed; they needed a mindset shift more so. And it takes more than just me 30 minutes once a week with them. You know, I need to be able to dive deep into these people, figure out where they're coming from, meet them where they are, and start to build a process, a plan, an actionable like guidebook daily that they could start to implement, taking actionable steps to start building that person that they would admire. And now I'm here.
Wow. Okay. When you were going through all that, the rehab and everything, do you have any kind of support structure at all helping you out? I'm just curious, or do you have to endure all that by yourself?
So I had like family around. They would come visit me like every other day or so. Um, but no, I mean, it was just me. I had my own little room, and
Hmm.
it was just wake up, go through the process, repeat. You know,
Right.
it was a good thing because, of course, it helped. It helped give me a little bit of guidance and also kept me away from some of those old things that I would normally fall back into. But also because I think a lot of people could be like, oh, well, you know, that rehab center was the thing that got him going. And yes, it did. But also I realized that like I was tired of accepting the same old. And there was a mental switch. There was like, you know, it takes maybe an event like nearly losing your life or hitting that rock bottom per se that we're like, shit, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm tired of living that way. I'm done accepting that. What's better? What's better for me? Like what can I do to start leveling up myself? And again, I didn't know the path illuminates as you walk it, right? Like I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that my conscience knew that that felt good. Okay, let me start walking towards that even more.
Wow. Okay. So that's kind of where I was going was because yeah, when you hear the story the first time, it's like, okay, this rehab center did a great job,
And it
but
did. It did.
yeah,
Yeah.
sure. By the same token, though, there's something else going on here, and I'm like, you came up with this mindset shift um, on your own somehow through this whole thing. The switch
Yeah.
flips, and that's great. Was physical fitness, the thing that you started to kind of believe in about yourself that helped you flip that switch, or is there any trigger that you can identify that because you did this in your own mind,
Yeah.
which is a tough thing, man. I mean, and you should be applauded like crazy for that. I just wonder if that comes from somewhere else, or if there's, maybe something that happened.
No, I just knew that I wasn't happy the same like again, I was sort of like putting a blanket over myself in those previous days of like partying, living for the weekend,
Mm.
working through the week just to pay for the weekend type of deal. And I I just knew that now actually having some time away from that I was like, damn, okay, I truly didn't like myself back then. Like, and I don't want to go back into that. And of course, it didn't flip like a 180. I mean, it was having to work daily, and I still have to work on it daily, of course. But yeah, fitness was the pillar, I guess, that sort of kept me away. Because one thing, at least about fitness, health, exercising, and building that like more mentally, physically better version of yourself is when you go back into those old things, whether it's diving into the party rock star lifestyle that I thought I was living, or chasing things that really really aren't returning any investment back into yourself. They're typically anchors or sabotaging you. They You get a sense of regret. And over time, it's like building a skill, like any other skill. That sense of regret I used as almost like a guide to be like, okay, that I don't feel good doing that. Let me avoid that as best as possible moving forward. Am I going to do it again? Yeah, for sure. I might touch that hot stove 2 or 3 times, but I learned to use that as a trigger to flip the switch and be like, okay, that doesn't make me feel good inside. That doesn't make me feel good about myself. Let me lean into the opposite direction. And
Nice.
fitness, exercise, that typically builds a little win within yourself when you're building yourself, making deposits into yourself. And you feel a sense of accomplishment, a sense of purpose through controlling those things you can control, which is your body, your mind. These are things that we all can do. It's tough because there's a lot of distractions out there, but when you can take a step back and like breathe and be like, all right, what can I control? Like if the day's gone to shit, or if you feel like you don't have a purpose or a passion, or you can start within, building that more mentally, physically, better version, tougher version, stronger version of yourself will be able to do anything than your previous self would choose to do that much better. So I think fitness was a huge pillar for me that kept me aligned.
Yeah. The Now I know you've got a program that you've come up with, and I know that you do this. You just said online and in person, and so on and so forth. I also know that you were saying that, hey, I work with them for 6 weeks, but then they kind of fall off. They go right back to their same old habits,
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. So it's that constant here we go again syndrome,
Yeah.
for guys. But so given what you went through, you've taken that. Obviously, that's where a lot of this in your course comes from, is your own personal experience, correct?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. How do you take that? Because you had this cataclysmic event, you know what I mean, that caused you to change all that. Now, how do you take
Yep.
that and turn that into a successful mindset shift for, the average guy who, hasn't gone through that, but is, unhappy with himself without giving away your program? I mean, we don't
No,
we don't want to
no,
give away the whole farm, you know what I mean? But give everybody
no.
an
Here's
idea.
here's here's the blueprint, man.
Yeah.
Is straight up. Everybody, you, I, everybody that's listening to this has a person they admire, they look up to, right? Within your life, whether it's somebody you follow on social media or somebody that's around you in your own life. You're like, man, that guy, I like a lot of characteristics about him. He's crushing it. He's killing it, man. I wish I had a little bit of what he's got, right? All right, let's build your own personal brand book for Austin. All right, what does Austin do and what does Austin don't do? That future version of Austin that I want to build, want to become, what does he do? What does he don't do? Let's build that brand book, like a brand book for any business. Like let's use, for example, like Harley Davidson, the motorcycle company. You know exactly what that brand looks like, what they do, what they stand for, what they don't stand for, what they don't do. Building that same thing for yourself, finding that person you admire. You don't have to be them. You can start to conduct yourself in the way that they do and start to build better habits, a better lifestyle, or at least have a guide to act upon daily. All right, does that person probably sleep in and skip cut corners? Probably not. Just giving a vague example. Does that person probably watch what they eat? Are they mindful about what they eat? Are they mindful about who they listen to, who they hang around? How do they react to things? Do they blow up? Do they lose their temper? Are they calm and collected? There's many things that you can dive into, but typically the simpler the better. Well, how does that person conduct themselves on a day to day and start to implement some of those characteristics that you really appreciate about that person or admire? And you can start to build your own actionable plan daily to start to get aligned with. Because if not, you're going to be sort of going through the same old because it's comfortable enough typically for most people. It's good enough. I'm not that out of shape. Oh, I'm not that broke. Oh, my relationships are okay. The moment you can start to find that person that you're always like, man, that guy's got it going on, start to build up that plan, that guidebook for yourself. And that's typically what I do. Like the bare bones is we build some type of personal brand book for yourself to follow.
I've never heard anybody describe it like that. That's fascinating. I love that angle, for the whole thing, because as soon as you said it, it was like it started connecting with me. And
Yeah.
I've only known you for a few minutes. So
Yeah.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I hope you guys are listening to this. Um, Building your own personal brand book and
Yeah.
deciding who you want to be. But that's something that we all can relate to, is because we spend our whole lives on social media and watching Netflix. I
For sure.
mean, for
For
better or
sure.
for worse. And there are people out there that we would love to emulate and that we look up to. And boy, I wish I was, more like that.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. And you just came up with that. I mean, it just was like boom, and that hit you.
Yeah. I
Wow.
mean, I was the same way, like back when I was younger, before the wreck, and even a little after the wreck, man. Like I said, it wasn't a complete 180. It took a lot of daily. just compounding time to build the skills, build the habits to create the person I am today. And hopefully I'm continuing to do that. Like this whole journey is an endless process of refinement. I want this to be forever. But I was always looking around at some of these guys, even when I was younger, before the wreck, and even after. I was like, man, that guy's got it going on, man. Like, I really look up to that guy. That guy's crushing. He shows up. He's got a plan. He knows what he's doing. He knows why he's showing up. Okay, let me start to watch some of these people. How do they conduct themselves? What do they do throughout their days? Are they bullshitting, or are they, making actionable plans and knocking them out? And again, it's very vague that I'm giving right now because everybody's got different goals and different
Of course.
people that they admire. But
Sure.
uh, that's a simple way to break it down for sure.
All right. Let me ask you this, and you don't have to answer this. I didn't prep you for this at all, so this could be coming out of left field. I don't know, but
Come on.
um, so what does Austin Page's brand book look like?
All right. Austin Page wakes up early. He controls his wake up time. Austin Page controls what he eats. He's mindful about it. He doesn't try. He does control what he eats. I think that's a big thing that I always thought. I was like, man, I mean, that was a big thing or a big hurdle that I had for a long time. I thought those things were outside of my control, but I could dive into that later. I exercise daily. Austin Page exercises daily. He builds himself up in some fashion. It doesn't have to be weight training. It's some type of exercise movement daily. And Austin Page is mindful about who he hangs around with, who he's influenced by, and how he reacts to things. That's like my general brand book. So when I'm thinking about or going through it, like let's say for a scenario that pops up, somebody comes in, it ticks me off, or I have something blow up in my lap, whether it's my app or something, and I try and take a step back. All right, let me breathe. What can I control this in this moment? What are those things that I can control? Okay, I can control how I react to this. Is it truly affecting me, or is it something that's just sort of outside of my control? And am I going to let the rest of my day fall apart as far as the other little obligations that I have? Like, what can I like? It's more so taking a step back and realizing what I can control and what I can. And
Nice.
those are like the general brand things that I have for myself. Of course, there's some other little niche things as far as daily tasks that I have for myself, but those are what keep me aligned. Wake up time, controlling what I eat, controlling what I drink, and moving my body every day.
So this is something in your course where you help, another guy. Like if I'm working with you, then
Yeah,
you're right off the bat, you're sitting with me, helping me put my brand book together and kind of
yeah,
like give me a little guidance on where I need to go and what I need to come up with.
of course. And I think so that's definitely part of it. And then you're like, all right, well, how do I make it happen though? So then we have to backwards plan our days. Everybody has a schedule, right? Everybody knows typically what tomorrow is going to look like. I have to work at this time. I have to drop the kids off at this point. I got this errand at that, blah, blah, blah. All right, let's take accountability. Let's take some ownership of our days, our week. Let's backwards plan. Okay, I can fit that workout. I can wake up at this time to fit that workout in right here, or make sure I have my food, my lunch is ready to go for that day, blah, blah, blah. So building your days to build you. So not only do we put a guidebook to keep us aligned, all right, well, how do we put it into action? All right, we got to program or build our days to build us.
Nice. Nice. Let's go back to what you touched on a minute ago, and that is, your controllables, so to
Yeah.
speak. And you said we'll come back to that later. I think personally, I know, all honesty out here, I know I have issues with that because I catch myself all the time saying, well, I can't, blah, 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 and you fill in the blank, and then you stop and you
Yeah.
go, I can actually, I need to, get up earlier or stay up later or not do that next time or, so
Yeah.
on. How do you start working with guys on that? Because there's such a rigid excuse level for, well, I can't, and that's not, I can't control that.
Yeah. Well, it's person to person, but typically I have a conversation with them. And what I do with my group, my app is typically I have group calls and we get on here and we talk about some of these things, the wins, the losses, the struggles, the hurdles, and we're able to break that down person to person as a group and hopefully bounce each other's perspectives off because
Right.
sometimes my perspective might not click for you. It might be somebody else's in the group that's like, oh shit, okay, I never thought about it that way. Or damn, okay, he's doing it this way. He's got the same things going on, same circumstances. Let me try that, see if I can implement that. But anyways, uh, it's more so asking the right questions to get them to pull it out. And we again, we can lay out the day and be like, okay, well, why do you think it's outside of your control? And then I just try and dig and ask the right questions. I don't just say, oh, you suck. I try and get you to like open your eyes to like, oh shit, okay, Austin made me think about it this way. Yeah, I could plan a little bit better. Or I could take more accountability. And that's what life is, being an adult, right? It is accountability. And I'm not perfect. I can still my everybody's brain knows exactly what to tell themselves to talk themselves out of what they should be doing. It knows exactly what you want to hear. Oh, you had a long day. Oh, you're a little tired. Oh, you slept like shit. Take it out, take it easy, Austin. It knows exactly what you want to hear. But I just was talking in one of the calls the other day, and there's the next time you start to say those things, like I can't control that. And sometimes you can't. You gotta like you have to have that like awareness of saying, oh, that is something I can control, and that's something I truly can't. It's outside of my control. So I shouldn't let it mess me up too much. Yeah, I can be aware of it, cognizant, but I'm not gonna let it affect the rest of my day to the best of my ability. But say some of those things out loud. Like say like when you're getting into the moment where you're sort of having that woe was me thing, and like I don't have time, uh, I can't do that. And but sometimes you might have to just say it out loud, not in front of people. You can, but say it out loud. Be like, what would I think of a person that would say that? Like, does it sound kind of bitch, or does it like, or is it something that I can control? Like, and, and maybe I've been tough on myself for a long time that way, but and it's taken a switch to build that skill. But and I'm not perfect. I'm not a saint, but there's like a internal thought process you'll need to have that will be cultivated over time of maybe asking yourself out loud some of these times of like, does that sound like I'm taking control of my life, or does that sound like I'm passing the blame off to something else? Am I letting something else have control of my day?
Nice. Nice. And that sounds like it would be definitely a different personal journey for everybody.
Oh, it
The
would be.
and you do one-on-one with these guys working on this sort of thing, but then and you surprised me a second ago because you said you also have a group component to your training.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
how does that play off of each other? I know some guys really gravitate one towards the other, but you've got them both. So how do you work those together?
So within my app, it's pretty much set up like this. I work one on one with people through their daily processes, their like structure, accountability, their daily routine per se for like relative terms. But once a week, I have a group call with everybody that I work one on one with, and we get to link up. Obviously, we get to meet each other. People that aren't local, I have people typically throughout the states, and we're able to meet up, talk, and work through things that way. Because sometimes, like I said, and I learned quickly throughout years of in-person training when I'd have some groups together, that my perspective might not always be the right perspective for that person. Like I said, somebody else might have similar circumstances outside of me, and they were like, "Hey, this is the way I've worked through it. This is where So these group opportunities can create a mindset shift in itself, and that's what I have. So I have one-on-ones within the app, but weekly we get together, whether it's via Zoom or other apps. We link up and chat, catch up.
Nice. Now you had this, event, of course, that caused you to kind of start going through this whole transformational process,
Yeah,
and it seems as though you've really come out the other side. So let me take a brief moment to give you some grace, and you are now a gym owner, and I mean because you've got the app and everything. But tell
yes,
us a
sir.
little bit about where you are today, as opposed to where you sort of started your transformation.
Yeah. So before I was working odds and ends jobs, a little irrigation here, a little landscaping there, helping with some sheetrock over here. Nothing of any passion. But now I have my own private gym, and I just that's kind of what I focus on. But it's not the only thing I do throughout the day. I also have a rental property, real estate that I'm trying to start to incorporate and build upon, and push myself outside of just the box of fitness, of course, which has been a big part of my life. But it's one of the fundamental pieces of my life, though, that keeps my
Sure.
discipline, keeps my grit, my fortitude. That's that self-inflicted adversity every day that I put myself through with a strenuous workout
Yeah.
bleeds into everything else that I do. It helps me push through and realize many of these things or stresses that people call problems are just life. It's just life, and that's okay. I can control what I can control and keep moving forward one day at a time. But that's pretty much in a nutshell where I'm at now. Personal training, coaching within my own gym, and delving into other, I guess, passions outside of this.
Nice. And are you wearing a ring on your hand there?
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, that's a pretty nice development. Now, was that in place before you had the accident and she stuck through it, or was
No.
that after and since? Because that's part of your victory lap, brother.
Oh yeah, well, I appreciate that. No, she came after. She wouldn't have. She would. I was a straight loser before, straight up. She wouldn't. I wouldn't. And the funny thing, I'm glad. Not many people dive into the relationship or my marriage and whatnot. But uh, I wouldn't have attracted her with the person I was before. I would have chased chicks like her or women like her, but I would have never attracted. Because a lot of people can chase, but you got to attract these things that you want in life,
Right.
especially a partner of caliber, a partner that is going to push you or be on the same level or same mindset as you. You can't expect to get these tens when you're conducting yourself as a four or as a five. And I'm not saying just looks. I'm saying a 10 as in like, or their mind's right. They're driven. They have some type of passions in life. They aren't just like, yeah, the typical. I don't know. I don't want to dive too much into that, but I will say the person I was before would have never. And she's been a huge rock within my life too. So me building the person I was able to connect with her, and then we feed off of each other as we're both super driven. And I think that's what's been able to connect us too is our passions and sort of fires that we have within our own lives.
That's nice. That's nice.
Yeah.
The reason I bring it up is because, I'm a little bit older. I've been around a little bit, and I know that a lot of guys, one of the first things they do when they start having problems in their own lives is they look within. They blame their marriages. They blame their wives for holding them back or for not supporting them or whatever it is because they don't want to blame themselves.
Yeah.
And so one of the things we work on here a lot is, appreciating the fact that you have a partner who wants to be there with you,
Yeah.
in the whole thing. And in a story like yours, that's a victory, because a lot of guys don't come out of what you came out of in a mental position or a physical position, to be able to
Yeah.
enjoy that part of their lives. And it really does look like you've achieved a lot since you had that happen. And I just
Yeah.
want to make sure that we're giving you credit for that, brother.
Well, thank you, man. Thank you, Rory. And I know we talked a little bit before it. It's a daily process, man. There's no it has to be worked upon daily. The marriage, your fitness, your health, your mindset. Like these things, they're a dulling skill. The more you avoid it, the more you skip it, the more you give intention or attention away from it, it begins to dull. And the more attention, intention, awareness you can give it, the more it sharpens. And I think a lot of people that even around, and obviously, I'm sure just a little bit younger, but it's even the people that where I see their relationships are cracking or they've already tapped out and they're in their late 30s, early 40s, they're already tapped out in life. And it's like, oh my gosh, you look like you're 60, dude, and you're a year younger than me. Like, I think a lot of people get into this almost, it's like a region beta paradox is called, and it's the good enough. It's like, you get comfortable. You think you're able to coast, but you're either moving forward or you're moving backwards. It's like a sliding scale. It's no like maintenance really. And I think that one big hiccup or one big hurdle or struggle that can happen to a lot of guys and women is they sort of just put it on cruise control. And that's how the marriage starts to dull. That's how the relationships start to dull. That's how you start to not have great, probably self-talk over time. You're like, I've let myself go. And it's a negative feedback cycle too. It gives resentment. It creates resentment. It creates this irritable feeling. And if you can focus on building you and obviously bringing that other person within your life, whether it's a girlfriend, boyfriend, or partner, whatever, and y'all can hold each other accountable and push each other in a sense instead of just sort of putting on cruise control. And I get it, after time, people can get relaxed, but I think the more you can push each other outside of comfort, the stronger the bond will be built over time, and it's built daily. It's the more, again, if you let it just go on cruise control, it tends to just cruise right off the road.
Right on. Yeah, cruise control definitely is a common affliction,
Yeah.
amongst men at some point. I think everybody deals with that at some point.
No, of
Um,
course. Yeah,
yeah,
of
it's whether
course.
or not you give into it or keep on fighting, which is awesome.
Yeah.
All right, your program, okay, and now are you doing more in person or are you doing more through your app? How's that going?
For like the past 8 years, I've been coaching since 2013, so a little over 10 years. It was all in person for a long time, and which is great. I love being able to connect with people in person,
Yeah,
really get to see them, work with them, push them, because through the app there is a small difference in being able to be a nudge in the app versus in person. But over time, though, I've I can only scale myself, but so many hours of the day training people in person, coaching people in person, which I still do. But I've more so not not focused on in person, but have dove even harder into my online coaching because there's many people out there that don't have a group, don't have a network, don't have somebody to lean on, and whether they're within the social media age, they just sort of sit at home and scroll, and we're able to connect through the app, and they don't have to. It's been able to scale a lot more and be able to work with people with where they're at, whether it's wherever they're at, pretty much. So then that's where I've been focusing on.
nice. Okay, good deal. Let's talk about the app for a minute. Now, I know
Yeah,
you've got your website. Give everybody the website real quick in case they're driving. They want to look it up right now. It'll be
yeah.
in the show notes, of course, guys. You know that. So, but go ahead and give it to everybody.
You can sign up for coaching and reach out to me. Check it out at www.gymflowcoaching.com. And that's Gymflow with no W, Gymflo.
Nice, nice. Now, is the website the only way to? Is that how you get access to the app, or is the app itself like available um, as an app, through an app
Yeah,
store or
no,
something?
it's available as an app, but with it being my own private app, I have to send you a link. So you'd either
Okay,
reach out to me through obviously the website. You can reach out to me, ask questions through there, but also I'm super active on Instagram. That's where I hang out a lot, DMing back and forth with people, reaching out, dropping Q&As, and that's where you can also reach out to me on there, and I can explain more about the process, the app, and dive into it, dive
and
into
what's
more details about it.
what's your Instagram handle?
My Instagram is at a pageman, a pageman.
A Page Man, Man.
Yes, sir.
Got it. Just want to make sure everybody's got that. So beautiful. All right. Yeah, I'll definitely follow you. See if we can pick up anything over there. So
Yeah,
that's
give me a
fantastic.
follow.
Um, let me ask you this. You have such a story, and you've covered a lot of things. And I know we've bounced back and forth a little bit, and I apologize for not having a better flow for you. But
No, it's great.
sometimes I just I hear something, and I'm like, man, I want to make sure we get to that. But is there anything you want to make sure you let these guys know about Austin,
Yeah.
about your program, about your journey, anything that I have not asked you about that you want to make sure you get out there as part of your message? Anything like that?
Yes. One thing that I would like to leave people with, and a question you need to, or not even a question, a statement that you just need to reiterate daily is you are only as good as the example you set. It's not what we talk about. It's not what we say we're going to do. It's what we do. And becoming a leader, being an example, a better father, a better husband, a better leader within your community or the people around you, your family, your network, is being the example. It's not the best way to lead. It's the only way to lead. And we're only as good as that example. So keep that in mind. Ask that question: How am I conducting myself today? If I'm not admiring that way, try your best to sort of pivot, put together that actionable plan of that person you want to be, and start taking the action steps to get that way.
I'm really glad I asked you that question. That's a mic drop moment right there, brother.
I appreciate that. Appreciate it.
So
I actually have it here on the gym wall. Only as good as the example we said. Something I try to remind myself daily. It's
nice,
how are we living? How are we conducting?
nice, nice. Love it. All right, Austin, man, I thank you for coming on today, for being so transparent, for talking about stuff, and for fielding my questions out of left field. Even about your marriage and stuff, which I know you
Yeah,
weren't quite ready for, but man, you
I
you
love it.
took it like a champ.
Love it.
Thank you for sharing this with our audience today, because I'm sure somebody out here got something out of this, and hopefully they'll look you up, brother.
I appreciate that, Roy.
Thanks for being on. Gentlemen, you've heard yet another powerful guest on the Power of Man podcast. It's been a great episode. I hope you guys are taking heed to a lot of this stuff. Um, if you didn't get anything out of this episode, listen to it again because Austin is dropping nuggets every 5 seconds, and you guys need to pick some of this stuff up, write it down, put it under your pillow, put it on your wall, do something with it because he has laid out a roadmap for how to start working on the stuff that we work on every day, gentlemen. So I hope you guys are getting this. He's been a great guest. You guys, the reason that we bring people like this on is because if they can do it, you can do it. Because you guys are capable of anything and because you guys have value. You are worth it. You just have to believe it. Until next time.